Welcome to Am I the A-hole, where one of OP's friends always teases him for being single. In retaliation, OP criticizes him for marrying his first cousin, which leads to a physical fight between them, and ultimately, OP's colleague loses his job. I, 32-year-old male, am working in a multinational company in California. I come from Xi'an, China, and my family belongs to the Han Chinese community. We migrated to the USA in January 1988. In China, the government declared first cousin marriage illegal in 1981, but it was considered taboo even before that in our community. While it is legal in California, none of our family members have ever married their first cousins. Simply put, we consider first cousin marriage as incest. However, this is not the case for everyone in the USA. Many people do marry their first cousins, and it is quite common among some families. Even many of my colleagues are married to their first cousins, and one of them is Micah, 33-year-old male, a second-generation American Jew. To protect his identity, I am using a pseudonym, Micah, for my colleague. 2 weeks ago, I had a heated argument with him over his first cousin marriage and got him fired from the office. Micah and I have worked at the same company for 6 years. While we weren't close friends, we often engaged in discussions on various topics, from social to political issues. We used to joke about each other's cultures, but now I have realized that making jokes about someone's culture is not justifiable. He would often say, "How do Chinese differentiate between their wives when all of them look identical?" Sometimes he would say, "Chinese people name their child as Bang Dingao Ting Tang Tong Ching Rang Wong." And my most common reply was, "At least they don't 𝐒𝐓 their cousins." Last year, Micah married his cousin Talia, a 29-year-old female, and now has a 3-month-old daughter. But I am still single, though I have been dating some girls lately. After his wedding, I stopped making any jokes about first cousin marriage because I knew it was now a personal matter for him, and hence I didn't want to risk causing any conflict between us. However, recently, he has been giving me grief for being single, over and over, bragging that he was married and had a healthy baby, and I was still single, and no girl was ready to marry me. This continued until I reached a breaking point and confronted him, telling him that he had not got married. Instead, his parents had arranged a cousin for him so that he may incest. Listening to this, he got on fire and said that his marriage was neither arranged nor incest, and that he married his uncle's daughter out of choice. I asked him what he meant by uncle's daughter, and whether his wife was the property of his uncle, and now his. I told him that he was not only incestuous but also a misogynist. When he realized that he might not win the argument, and the situation was getting out of hand, he threatened that he would go to the HR manager to complain about my behavior. However, I beat him to it and went to HR first. In the USA, all citizens are theoretically equal on paper. However, there is a clear disparity in the treatment of white individuals compared to people of other races, such as black, brown, and yellow people. The latter are often viewed as foreigners. Chinese immigrants, in particular, have a history of facing violence, persecution, and even murder. This is not just a perception, but has been documented by the Library of Congress. Feeling anxious about potential discrimination, I decided to proactively address the situation by speaking with HR before Micah could raise any complaints about my behavior. I exaggerated my side of the story when I spoke to HR to emphasize my version of the dispute between Micah and me. I also presented a video in which Micah made derogatory remarks about Chinese people. My friend and colleague Wang Lei, 31-year-old male, recorded the video with the purpose of capturing the funny conversation between colleagues. However, this video helped me strengthen my case in this dispute. I informed HR that Micah had been discriminating against me and making such jokes about Chinese individuals for years, but I had chosen not to report it earlier to maintain a positive work environment. I only approached you when the situation became unbearable. During the break, HR called both of us and advised us not to discuss cultural differences at work. Since my version of the story carried more weight, HR asked Micah to apologize to me. He had no choice but to comply with HR's instructions. After the apology, HR helped us reconcile our differences. However, Micah was not pleased with the situation, especially since he had to apologize when we were both equally at fault. After a week of ongoing tension, my friends and I were having lunch at the cafe when Micah showed up with some of his friends. He confronted me about allegedly damaging his reputation in front of HR, demanding an apology. I stood my ground, pointing out that he was guilty of making fun of my being single. When I refused to apologize at any rate, there started a heated argument between us. We both said some harsh words about one another. The situation escalated when he physically attacked me, resulting in a broken tooth. Our colleagues intervened and separated us. They provided me with first aid to stop the bleeding. Upon hearing about the fight, HR also arrived at the scene. She reminded us of the previous warning not to bring personal conflicts into the workplace. She indicated that she would report the incident to the boss. HR presented the case before the boss, who formed an inquiry committee headed by HR. HR was already convinced that 𝐒𝐄𝐄 was wrong, and the CCTV footage of the cafe also suggested that it was 𝐒𝐄𝐄 who started the argument with me while I was sitting with my friends and having lunch, and he was the one who physically hit me first. In the evening, the inquiry committee submitted its report, which stated that 𝐒𝐄𝐄 was guilty of bringing up cultural differences in the workplace and initiating fights with his colleagues. After reading the conclusion of the report, the boss fired him from the job and handed him over to the police. After 2 weeks of trial, 𝐒𝐄𝐄 was convicted of felony battery and sentenced to 4 months of imprisonment and a $1,000 fine. Fast forward to now, 𝐒𝐄𝐄 came out of jail last week. Yesterday, he called me from an unknown number and threatened me again, saying that I ruined his career and now he would ruin my life. I am afraid of the consequences of the fight that started from some jokes. I wanted to report his threats to the police, but I don't have any proof that he threatened me because I could not record his call. Now, I am simply confused and afraid of the coming days. I believe I am not in the wrong and have never intentionally brought up cultural differences in the workplace. In fact, when I realized that our casual jokes might initiate a dispute between 𝐒𝐄𝐄 and me, I stopped making those jokes about the Jewish community. It was actually 𝐒𝐄𝐄 who started making fun of me for being single. However, 𝐒𝐄𝐄 still insists that I initiated the conflict by mentioning his cousin's marriage. However, I believe just stated facts when I was provoked repeatedly. Do you think AITAH? Everyone sucks here. While 𝐒𝐄𝐄's comments about his race and singleness were inappropriate, and his physical attack was unacceptable, it was OP who escalated the situation by bringing up 𝐒𝐄𝐄's cousin marriage, which is, of course, a personal and sensitive topic. Instead of handling the matter properly, OP messed up everything, causing 𝐒𝐄𝐄 to lose his job. Both OP and 𝐒𝐄𝐄 are unprofessional and AH. So I would rate OP 3 out of 5 on the AH scale and 𝐒𝐄𝐄 2.5 on the AH scale. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries.